You're listening to an Iraq Currency Watch podcast. Here's Marcus Curtis and Sam I Am.
Welcome to another Iraq Currency Watch podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Sam I Am, and we've been looking at things that have transpired in the dinar community over the last few weeks, and some interesting events have come to light. If you remember back in June, the government moved in on Sterling Currency Group, and it wasn't long after that Dinar Corp's site was shut down. Well, just recently there was a verdict from Dinar Corp, and apparently the head of Dinar Corp has pleaded guilty to charges of wire fraud, according to the indictment. And so there's been a lot of talk about that among the dinar community. Now, if you want details on this, we have put together a post called "Another Dinar Dealer Will Be Sentenced." And this is the latest post on Iraq Currency Watch. You can go there and look at it and to get more details. There are links provided so that you can get everything straight from the horse's mouth. Now, Dinar Corp was one of these companies that sold dinar, and they had gurus, and they had an effect on the dinar community in a negative way, especially those guys that talked bad about the dinar. And Sam I Am and Iraq Currency Watch were pretty much the object of some of the things they've focused on. But Dinar Douchebags was more or less one of these sites that Dinar Corp went after. And so I'm going to have Sam give a little bit more detail about his personal experience with Dinar Corp. Sam, tell us a little bit about what you went through with Dinar Corp.
I have been waiting so long to talk about this, but of course I needed to wait until the owner of Dinar Corp was convicted. Mm-hmm. And now that he's going away, you and I put a book out, I guess, the start of this year, right. And I left this story out of the book because I didn't want to get myself into a precarious situation here. But now I'm going to talk about some things. I wrote a post back in 2012, I believe, called "Connecting the Dots."
I remember that post.
Yeah, well, I just recently added it to the archives on Iraq Currency Watch. We'll provide a link to the Connecting the Dots. Actually, I did two posts, Connecting the Dots and Connecting the Dots 2. And basically what it boils down to is there were a lot of gurus pumping the dinar, pumping the RV, who were connected to Dinar Corp. Among them were BGG, Stryker, and Randy Kuntz. Now, I didn't mention Stryker in the Connecting the Dots post, but Stryker, Stardogger, People Invested, a number of sites had a Dinar Corp banner on their site, and they were getting compensated, of course, for putting the banner on the site. But the gurus that were affiliated were Randy Kuntz, BGG, Southwest Florida guy, and I think I mentioned also Doc Dinar, who was actually the father of Southwest Florida guy. Now, they had a site called Dinar Detectives. BGG's site was Dinar Updates, and Randy Kuntz was the featured guru of Currency Chatter, which is now defunct. And what I did was I exposed the real name of BGG. BGG doesn't stand for, it's not the man's initials. It stands for Better Golf Guaranteed, which is a business that he used to have. And his real name is Tom Sanders. And then I brought out some things about Southwest Florida guy that people didn't know. And I tied them all in with these forums and with the dealer, Dinar Corp. And at the time, there were a couple of videos that Dinar Corp had done where their spokesperson, Ivy Johnson, was interviewing BGG in one video and Randy Kuntz in another video. Apparently, they flew both of these guys up to Chicago and interviewed them. Now, I just thought that was really interesting that a Dinar dealer was talking to Dinar gurus. And the point that I made in the post was, when you see dealers and gurus and forum owners all hanging out together, you gotta smell a rat.
Yep.
And so I put this post out there, and it got a lot of comments and a lot of exposure in the Dinar community. And after a few months, I got an email from the attorney for Dinar Corp. Mm-hmm. And the basic message was, you said defamatory stuff in this blog post, and you need to take your blog down. Not just that blog post. You need to take your blog down and give us all the information on everybody who has contributed to the content on your blog, or you're going to face legal consequences. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that rattled me a little bit. I knew that I hadn't defamed anybody. I know what the definition of defamation is.
Right.
Defamation is when you say something about somebody that you know is not true,
right,
just to cause them harm.
Exactly.
Okay. I didn't say anything that I knew wasn't true. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure most of it was true. I may have gotten a few little details wrong here and there. I may have said somebody was 33 years old when they were actually 32, mm-hmm. or that their eyes are brown and they're actually green. I may have gotten a few little facts wrong, but the basics of what I was saying was all true.
Okay, but just to be clear here, they wanted the information of everyone that has input on your site. And at the time, you were the only one that had input. You didn't get this information from anybody else. This was all your own personal research.
No, I wrote everything on the blog. I did most of the research. Now, I had other people helping me with a few things, and I think I even mentioned in the book that if I had a question about the dinar, I would ask you, because you had done a lot of research on the dinar. You knew about the petrodollar, you knew about the status of forces agreement, things like that. If I had a question about some guru, some pumper, I would ask Chuckles, the owner of Dinar Data, because Chuckles had been around the Dinar community. He knew a lot of people. As a matter of fact, he's the one who told me about Ivy Johnson. He said, I knew Ivy at People's Dinar. And I said, does Ivy have any real intel? He said, no, he's a douchebag. Okay, that was just Chuckles. That's just the way he was, and that's where we got the name of the blog. But anyway, he told me that Ivy had a background in mixed martial arts. At least that's what he claimed. And so anyway, things like that. I got information about gurus from Chuckles. I got information from you about the dinar. And if I had a question about economics or currency in general, I would ask John Jagerson. Because by that time, John and I had become internet buddies. And he was very supportive of what I was doing. And he said, if you got any questions, just feel free to ask. And he was very helpful. But that's just in research. The content was all mine.
You put everything together yourself.
Exactly. And then nobody else was helping me out with the site. But even if they had, I wasn't about to turn over all of my information to these guys. But I didn't know what to do, and so I talked to John Jagerson. John has a lot of experience in dealing with defamation threats, because John Jagerson has come across a lot of investment scams in his day, and he's written about them. A lot of people have threatened him. And John said, basically, most of these guys are just, if you stand up to them, they'll back down. They're just wusses. Well, he didn't use the word wuss, but he basically was saying, they're not gonna follow through with anything. They're just trying to scare you off.
Well, now, before you go further, we know this is not the case with Dinar Corp.
Because we know of somebody that they actually did sue.
And this guy spent some money, and they're not the only ones they went after. But
Right. So because they actually went to court with somebody, I knew that they were serious, or I had to assume that anyway.
Right.
Okay. So then, now Chuckles had a friend named Rock, who was not a dinar investor, but Rock had been to law school. Now, he never became a lawyer. You know, he, for whatever reason, he never did pursue that as a profession, but he had a background in studying law. And Chuckles, when he found out that I was being threatened, he contacted Rock, and Rock told me, if they sent you an email, which is how they contacted me, it's just through an email. He says, if all they did was send you an email, you have no obligation to do anything.
Right. Now, this is through Yahoo, right?
Yeah, well, they
Was it
they subpoenaed my let's see, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the time frame. I don't remember if they contacted me. Yeah. Okay. Initially, they sent me the email and told me to take everything down. And then because I didn't respond, then they said, well, we want to subpoena your Yahoo logs and your Google logs. Now, I had an email account with Yahoo.
And that's how they contacted you initially, was through Yahoo.
Through my Yahoo email address, but I had that right there on my blog site. So,
Right, okay.
you know, that was no big deal for them to get that. But they subpoenaed my Yahoo logs. They couldn't actually read my emails, but they could see who I had emailed, who I had discussed, who had been talking to. Okay. Then they got my Google.
That's probably how my name came up.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
And then they also got my Google logs. And now Blogspot, who hosted the Dinar Douchebags site, is owned by Google. And so they got my Google logs, they got my Yahoo logs, and they got my name. Okay. So anyway, but Rock says, just ignore the email. That is not a proper way to notify somebody. You're supposed to have somebody hand deliver a summons or a subpoena. It's supposed to be something that's, you know, verifiable.
Right.
And he says, as far as they know, that email landed in your spam folder and you never even saw it. They can't prove in court that you ever read that email.
Right.
So he said, I would just ignore it. Just act like you never even got it. And so that's what I did. So about a half year goes by, and then I get another email. And this email says, okay, you haven't done anything like we told you to since the last email notification. So they said, here's what we want you to do. Just take down all of these statements that you made about Dinar Corp. So it was a kinder, gentler email. They were no longer demanding that I take down the blog and turn over all the names of everybody. They were just saying, take down the objectionable comments. By this time, I had seen them sue somebody else, and I didn't want to mess with them. So I just took down a few of the things that I never did respond. As far as they knew, it was just a coincidence that I took out the questionable things right after they sent me the second email. But I never had any contact with them. I read a couple of emails that they sent to me. I took down the objectionable comments, and then they came back and they said, well, there's a few more things we want you to take down. Okay, so I took a couple more things down. By that point, they knew that I was reading their emails, but I didn't care. And then they came back and they objected to something else. And I just finally said, screw it. And I just took the whole post connecting the dots down. I said, you know, it's been up there for a year. Anybody who wants this information is bound to have read it by now. I'm not going to ruin my life trying to keep other people from ruining theirs. So I took down the whole post, and actually both posts, connecting the dots and connecting the dots too. So then a little bit of time went by, and they contacted me again. They said, don't worry, we're not threatening you with a defamation lawsuit this time. We just want you to provide information for us in our litigation with Sterling.
Yeah, but you had nothing to do with Sterling.
Well, I had talked with somebody from Sterling, and they'd seen that in the Yahoo email records. And because I had talked with them, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. We'll talk about the lawsuit with Sterling here in a minute, but I have to backtrack here.
Okay.
While all of this stuff was going on, they got my records.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody put a post on Dinar Vets with my name, it said, yeah, it was Doc Dinar.
It was Doc Dinar, yeah.
Right, Doc Dinar, who owned and probably still does own Dinar Detectives.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a Dinar Corp banner on his site.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, isn't it interesting? All this time, nobody could figure out who Sam I Am is. And then suddenly they come up with my name after Dinar Corp subpoenaed my Yahoo logs and my Google logs. They got my name, and they gave it to this guy.
Yeah, well, they gave it to their gurus to do something about it, I think.
Whoever, I don't know, somehow or another, my name got out there, and it was published.
From the subpoena, is important to note. They subpoenaed the Google and Yahoo records, got your information, and then gave it to their guru network and shared that information with them.
Right, and in that post there at Dinar Vets, it said Rod Saunders is Sam I Am, and he's facing pending legal charges, or criminal charges. I think it said criminal charges.
Right.
And which is not true at all. But they were thinking that I was in cahoots with Sterling, and they actually said in that first email, if you're doing this, this is in violation of statute, whatever, and you're in big trouble. They were telling me I was in big trouble because I was in cahoots with Sterling, and what I was doing was illegal.
Right. You had nothing to do with Sterling, just to be clear.
No, I had contact with Sterling, yes.
Right, but the Dinar Corp and turning people in was not.
Sterling never compensated me for anything, and I never published any of the information that they gave me about Dinar Corp. Mm-hmm. But they were under the assumption that I had. I did all the research myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't get any of this information from Sterling. But anyway, the point was that information got out there. Okay, so now let's go back to the point that I was making a minute ago about the litigation. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to be a material witness in their lawsuit against Sterling. They were convinced that I knew stuff that was going on there. They were convinced that I had been working for Sterling. I didn't have any information that they were looking for. I'd never heard of the people. What do you know about this guy? What do you know about that guy? I don't know anything. I have no idea who he is. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't work for Sterling. Mm-hmm. And they never paid me. We talked a few times. Yes. Okay. I tell you what Sterling gave me. Mm-hmm. I guess it doesn't matter now. Sterling gave me the links to all of the criminal charges against Tony Renfro. Mm-hmm. That's what I published. That's what I got from Sterling. I didn't know about those links. And Frank Bell from Sterling said, hey, Sam, you might be interested in this. And he gave me these links to the 14 Daily Plus stuff and all the legal stuff that Tony was going through that the Dinar community didn't know about.
Right.
And so I put that out there, and before I knew it, it was making the rounds all over the community. That's what I got from Sterling. It had nothing to do with Dinar Corp.
Right.
But they thought that somehow or another I was in cahoots with them against Dinar Corp. And I wasn't. Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyway, later on now, they've got this lawsuit going on. They want me to be a material witness and provide all this information. And they had a guy coming to my door, knocking on my door, trying to serve me a summons. Mm-hmm. And I was becoming paranoid at that point. And so I contacted an attorney friend of mine, mm-hmm. and a friend of yours. Mm-hmm. And I said, what can you help me? What can we do here to end this situation? How can we resolve this? And he said, well, give me all the information. So I turned everything over to him. I said, here's what they're saying. Here's what has happened in the past. I gave him everything. Mm-hmm. And as he looked through it, he said, oh, they can't do this. They can't take information that they got
from a subpoena and
subpoena and then make it public. They can't do that. Right. That's not what it's for. Mm-hmm. And there were other things that they were in violation. I don't know.
Didn't they subpoena your computer records?
in the litigation, they were trying to get my computer
Right.
records.
And that's something that if you're law enforcement, you can go after their computer records in that case. I think that our lawyer brought up the fact that only law enforcement can do things like this. In a civil case, they have no right to do this.
Yeah.
The type of thing they were doing. They cannot do this with the computer thing.
Right.
Now, I don't know I'm not putting all the details out there, but what they were trying to achieve is authority that only law enforcement has, and they're trying to use it in a civil matter. Mm-hmm. And they had no right to do that.
Yeah. So he said, I'll handle this. And
he did.
he contacted their attorney, and he said, you're in violation of this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And he said, my client doesn't have any information that these guys are looking for. He wants to be left alone. And he said, I would advise you to leave him alone, or I'm going to report you to the bar, and I'm going to advise my counsel to countersue. Mm-hmm. Because what they had done in releasing my information, I could have potentially pursued a large settlement based on that, but I wasn't really interested in going through all that hassle. Probably would have never gotten any of the money anyway.
Right.
I just wanted the situation to go away. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted to get on with my life. And so after he contacted their attorney, I never heard another peep out of them.
No, they left us alone after that.
But this is the kind of stuff that these guys did.
Yeah, and not just us, but a lot of people in the Dinar community. They would threaten. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was closer to Baghdad Invest than you were, that site Baghdad Invest, and I would go over there and comment all the time. And the guy that runs Baghdad Invest was going to do a thing on Dinar Corp, and they contacted him. And basically threatened him the same way that, we're threatened. Now, I'm not going to go into any of the details, but to make a long story short, he never put the post out there. He decided against it. And because they basically told him, they told him what was coming. And we had talked to him before and told him about Dinar Corp and the kinds of legal things they do. But this is what they would do. They would attack people in the community, and they had deep pockets. And what's interesting to me is that they were just convicted of wire fraud, and one of the parts of the conviction was they didn't have enough dinar in the program to cover their reserves. So they were getting money for the reserve program, but they weren't putting dinar in it, according to the indictment. Now, the interesting point is, what were they doing with the dinar they were selling that they were getting the money for? Well, where'd all this money go? It went to suing Sterling, my guess. It went to their pumper network. It probably went to their legal defense and their legal counsel and all that other stuff. That's probably why they didn't have...
I know that they were paying a pretty good chunk of change to the attorneys. I know that they had...
Lots of attorneys.
Well, they had this guy who contacted me was their internet attorney. The other guys were the civil case against Sterling. That was a completely different team of lawyers.
Right.
And now they got criminal attorneys.
And now they got criminal attorneys. Yeah. So a lot of that money went to there.
So, yeah, but not only were they paying attorneys, they were paying pumpers.
Right. They were paying pumpers. And
just like Sterling was paying Terry K however much money, these guys were compensating their sites. I mean, they had, let's count them up. There was Stardogger, Dinar Discussions, Dinar Detectives, Dinar Updates, Currency Chatter, Striker. Who am I leaving out? Probably about 7 or 8 different sites had Dinar Corp banners. And these people were being well compensated.
Dinar Detectives, People Invested.
People Invested, right.
Currency Chatter, Dinar Discussions.
Oh, here's something else. Currency Chatter's featured guru was Randy Kuntz. Randy also had a personal site with a Dinar Corp banner on it.
People's Talk Radio.
So they had a lot of different people that they were compensating to get their business. They had a lot of different attorneys that they were paying. And even with Google AdSense, you would see Dinar Corp ads pop up on different sites that didn't actually have Dinar Corp as a sponsor, but they had Google AdSense, and those Dinar Corp ads were coming up there too. So they were putting a lot of money out there into promotion and into attorney fees. I don't know where else the money went. I know they had to move around a lot because they had a cease and desist order in Illinois, and they had to move across the border into Indiana, or across the state line into Indiana and set up shop there.
Yeah, and according to the indictment, they were registered out of Nevada. So
yeah, and then they got in trouble in Alabama.
Yeah,
These guys were all over the place.
They were all over the place. Yeah, and all the links that support all of this, by the way, the announcements will be posted on the podcast notes, so you can click on them and see what the authorities have to say about this matter.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. Have you ever tried to learn about basic economics only to get bogged down with complex math and advanced equations? This can be frustrating. Learning basic economics should not be this hard. Head on over to the site called Biblical Views in World Economics, or BVAWE, and learn about basic global economics. Start off learning about monetary history. Then learn about various monetary systems that have been in place, such as Bretton Woods and the classic gold standard. Learn about basic money mechanics. What causes inflation? How is the global money supply expanded and contracted? What is fractional reserve banking? All of these topics and more are answered with easy-to-understand basic layman's terms. This site is brought to you by the same person who brought you Iraq Currency Watch. The Biblical Views section covers modern Christian traditions that are not found in Scripture. It covers areas where the Bible has been taken out of context by the modern church. It provides arguments against subjects like tithing and the prosperity gospel. This site is more about the function of money than it is about Christianity. There are some principles that Christians believe about money that actually have no scriptural basis whatsoever. So check out Biblical Views in World Economics today and learn how money really works. The Word of Faith movement has impacted Christianity like few movements in the history of the church, and yet it is one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented movements as well. To help people learn more about the truth of Word of Faith teaching, Rod Saunders has written an exhaustive book on the subject entitled Defending the Faith, Word of Faith Apologetics. Based on his extensive history in the movement and over 30 years of research, Defending the Faith addresses many of the misconceptions that people have concerning things like confession, physical healing, the atonement, and financial prosperity. Now available at Amazon.com's Kindle publications, Defending the Faith takes on the often misleading rhetoric and assertions of opponents of the faith message with a balanced scriptural approach to these subjects and more. Don't be misled, get the other side of this story from someone who's been there. Defending the Faith, available today at Amazon and your favorite ebook retailers.
Hey, guitar players! Do you have the basic guitar skills down? Are you an intermediate player that wants to increase your skills? Do you want to increase your knowledge of music theory? Then head over to Marcus Curtis Music and take the free guitar lessons. With over 50 videos and an expanding library of resources, you will be amazed at how far you can advance. Check out the free chord guide and the video series called Learn 120 Bar Chords. Check out the free scale guide in the video series called Create Your Own Guitar Solos. Level 3 of Advanced Guitar Lessons will give you a background on music theory. There is no account to create and no email address required. No credit cards or information of any kind is accepted. These lessons are truly free with no strings attached, so check them out today.
You're listening to an Iraq Currency Watch podcast. Stay tuned for more.
If you listen to radio or watch TV, you may have heard commercials that started like this.
We predicted the 2008 meltdown.
Or they may add,
We predicted the housing bubble in 2008 and the dot-com bubble.
these statements are designed to make you think that the people represented in the advertisement are financial experts. The commercial may claim that the advertiser has successfully navigated through a series of bad economic events and brought wealth to many people. The next statement is typically something like this,
The Federal Reserve is printing too much money.
which is followed by,
A collapse of the dollar is coming.
sometimes this can be followed by,
This collapse will make the Great Depression look like a recession.
and the next statements are typically,
How will you prepare for this financial collapse? How prepared are you for the collapse of the dollar?
and now the sales pitch begins.
Not only can you avoid the pitfalls of the coming economic collapse, but you can actually profit from it.
And from here, the product is pitched. And sometimes they offer you a free guide. This is so they can get your mailing address or email address. And once they have those things, you are bombarded with even more propaganda. The conspiracy theory used to sell these products states that there will be a global currency reset. The dollar will crash overnight and it will be immediately replaced. Is there any truth to this?
Read the book by Marcus Curtis called The Truth About the Coming Global Currency Reset and get the facts behind the hype. It is available on Amazon, Smashwords, and other ebook retailers. Learn the truth behind the global currency reset and put your fears to rest.
The Apostle Paul said, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first, and also for the Greek." Are you a Christian who needs help in sharing the gospel? Do you need access to information on subjects like evolution and creationism, Calvinism, or glossolalia? Do you need a better grasp of the fundamentals of the Christian faith? The Apostle Peter tells us that we should always be prepared to give an answer to those who ask us for the reason for the hope that we have. As believers, we not only need to know what we believe, but why we believe what we believe. JewandGreek.com is a fresh, innovative Bible apologetics site providing Bible study resources and information on philosophies, religions, denominations, and cults, along with commentary on current doctrinal issues. That's www.jewandgreek.com. Log on today to better equip yourself to provide a defense for your faith.
You're listening to an Iraq Currency Watch podcast. Here's Marcus Curtis and Sam I Am.
In the another dinar dealer will be sentenced. The guy that ran Dinar Corp, his name is Hussein. How do you pronounce it?
Husam Taya, I think.
Husam Taya. Yeah.
They just call him Sam because Husam is not a name that most Americans know.
Okay.
So just they called him Sam. And you can hear Ivy Johnson on conference calls calling him Sam.
Sam. Okay. I'm going to quote from the justice, the place that gave their verdict, the press release. It says, at some date in the coming months, Chief United States District Judge W. Keith Watkins will sentence Taya at the sentencing hearing. I can pronounce that word.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Taya faces a maximum sentence of 20 years imprisonment as well as a fine. So, that's pretty harsh. I don't know if he's going to get the max. We don't know what's going to happen. His sentence is coming up. But it's also important to note that somebody else was indicted from Monex. Once again, if you want some of the details, go to the post on Iraq Currency Watch and click on the links, and you can get a lot more of the information there. There's one other thing I would like to talk about. Over on our site that we go to and comment on, Dinar Daily. Well, by the way, if you're not a member of Dinar Daily yet, I would highly recommend go over and sign up awesome site. You will not be banned for stating your opinion. It doesn't matter whether you're for the dinar or against the dinar. As long as you state your opinion, you're not going to be banned for that. You can say anything you want. Keep it civil, keep it clean, but you can say anything you want to. If you believe in the redenomination, the revalue, whatever, just go over there and get the actual story from the other side. Well, Dinar Daily has a thread regarding this topic. And it says Dinar Daily has threads regarding dinar recaps. And this was started by Rambler Nash. And the title of the thread was Dinar Recaps Fails to Inform Their Readers About Dinar Corp. Okay, I think it's like Wednesday, July 13th was when it was posted. And in that thread, there is a email that was shared by a mutual friend of myself and Sam I Am. And this guy's name is Nick. He's a good friend of ours. And Nick shared this email that he received, and this is what it says. Two of the largest dinar dealers were shut down by the FBI. That was last summer. It was a mystery why they were closed until now. Dinar Corp's owner pled guilty yesterday to charges. Okay, it is a sad and disturbing day in Dinar land. According to the U.S. Attorney, the problems stem from Dinar Corp offering reserves. The report says Dinar Corp didn't have physical dinar on hand to cover reserves in the event all the orders came due at once. That was the issue and a big problem if everyone wanted their dinar at one time. If you had dinar on reserve with Dinar Corp, it sounds like you may get your dollars back or dinar depending on your specific situation. I don't know any more than what is written on this page. Okay, so basically, and this is an email sent by Blanche from Dinar Recaps, I believe.
No, Blanche is with Dinar Guru.
Or Dinar Guru, okay. Is there some kind of association with them and Dinar Recaps? I don't know, but it says...
I've always suspected that, but I can't prove it.
Okay, well, there's just... it has two things here in the post regarding both sides. But anyway, Dinar Guru, okay. This is going to be the MO. This is what the gurus are going to say about the Dinar Corp thing. Is that because it doesn't mean that the dinar is not going to revalue. They got prosecuted because they didn't have enough money to cover their reserves. And that is pure baloney. I mean, wire fraud and is what it says, is wire fraud, okay? It's not just a reserve program that they had. And yeah, that was the main thing that they went after. But to say that they got prosecuted because and that was the only reason is baloney. There are other things. Now, as I began to address this, the other thing that came up that kind of surprised me is the comment that she made that said this: if you had dinars on reserves with Dinar Corp, it sounds like you may get your dollars back or dinar depending on your specific situation. Once again, I'm saying that is baloney. Good luck getting your dollars back from Dinar Corp. We just went down a list of what they spent their money on: gurus and lawyers and legal defenses. You think they have the money to give you your money back for dinar? Good luck collecting that money back.
Right.
I mean, because they were prosecuted because they didn't have the dinar in reserve. One of the reasons. So why didn't they have that dinar in reserve? It's because their money was going to other things. You think they still have that money in their possession? If they could afford to put the dinar in reserve for you, they would have done so. And so the fact
I remember, Marcus, sorry to interrupt, but I remember discussing this with Chuckles like three years ago. You probably were in on conversations like this too.
I was.
Chuckles said that was one thing that just drove him nuts, was watching people buy on reserve. He would tell people on his forum, don't buy on reserve. Right. That is just, that is the craziest thing in the world to do. There was this one lady, I think her name was Beach Dreaming, and that's all she did was buy on reserve. She said, I can't afford to buy, 1,000 dinar, $1 million dinar for $1,000. I can't afford that, so I just have to buy on reserve. But every time she would buy on reserve, then it would come time for a payment. She didn't have the money, and she kept losing.
I when I at work, when I go over to Starbucks, there was a lady over there that bought dinar, and she would tell me that she's making whatever they make over at Starbucks, which isn't much, and she would start to reserve and get it going, And she lost her reserve a few times. She would go buy dinar, and she wouldn't have the money to make the payment, and then or the payment was late, and she lost her reserve as a result of that. I don't know who her reserve was with. We never got into that discussion, but I felt like it was a scam at the time.
Yeah, but here's what Chuckles said, though, that because he saw all these people losing money on reserve, he said these guys are making a fortune on this reserve stuff because they got these gurus out there pumping, saying, I've got information from a very reliable source, and they're going to RV on Friday, and then we'll cash in on Monday. So people go out and buy on reserve. And then, of course, Monday comes, nothing. And these people were losing money. And Chuckles said, I guarantee you, not one of these dealers has enough dinar to meet all of their reserve orders.
Right.
I guarantee you they do not have the funds to stockpile billions of dinar that they would need to handle all of these orders.
Right. And the other thing he brought
They're
up,
betting on people not being able to
that's exactly right.
to pay.
And the other thing he brought up was that they're making a killing because not only are they collecting money for dinar sales, they don't have to provide the dinar for the sale. They're just collecting money. And they don't have to have dinar in supply to take a reserve. And so they're just collecting money for the sale of dinar that they're never even supplying in to begin with.
You remember the Treasury Vaults program?
Yeah, vaguely, but yeah.
You buy reserve from them, and you get a certificate. Hey, you bought it, but you didn't even take delivery from them. They would just give you a certificate that said that you were the proud owner. We'll keep it here for you.
Right, we'll keep it here for you. Yeah.
Which, I mean, the gall of people to sell something that they're not even going to let you take possession of.
I know.
But they didn't have it. That's the reason they sent you the little certificate that said that you own it. And then when you wanted to take possession of it, then they were obligated to come up with it somehow. But this whole reserve thing, I guess that started around 2010.
Yeah.
And I mean, they made a killing on this until.
I think it came out a few years after 2010. I think did it start with Ali?
I think it started with Ali. I'm not really sure. I
think it did, yeah. Because I remember the first I've heard of any reserve program was with him. And basically, whatever Ali did, everybody else copied.
Yeah.
And he was the big guy in the dinar community.
That's true.
When he did something, everybody else copied it. Now, they didn't do it the same way he did, and that was their fault because they usually ruined something he had. Like the cash-in centers. He came up with the cash-in center idea. What a great marketing scheme that was, You go, here's the cash-in center, so when it revalues, you can go, well, guess what? You're marketing the dinar as an investment now. It's no longer a collectible commodity you're selling. You're selling an investment to people because you're showing them cash-in centers you're going to open up. But he had this cash in and Dinar Banker was right on his heels with that. As soon as whatever idea they had, Ali would come up with. Other dealers coming up would copy him exactly.
Right. But he was an innovator for sure.
Yeah. Only these other people didn't follow through on some of the things that Ali did. But that was the way of things. And there's one other thing that was brought up in this email that really sticks in my craw. And I'm just going to see if I can find the exact
Wondered if you were going to get to this.
Okay, I am. And this is what it says. And no one from the community has confirmed owning fake dinar obtained from Sterling or Dinar Corp. Okay, time out. Fake dinar? Sam, did you ever accuse anybody of buying fake dinar?
No, that was never an issue.
Did I ever accuse anybody of selling fake?
I did warn people a couple of times.
Right.
About
but
buying on eBay, you might get, old Saddam dinars, or you might get, but I never brought up the issue of getting fake dinar from any of the dealers. That was never the issue.
Right. But they're making it like, and no one from the community has confirmed owning fake dinar obtained from Sterling or Dinar Corp. No one's ever accused Sterling or Dinar Corp of doing that in the first place.
No.
Yeah, she is bringing it up like, this is one of the accusations and it's not true. As if to say all these other accusations they're making are not true. Get the
I
facts.
that wasn't even in the indictment,
I
was it?
know. No one ever brought it up. The first time I see it is in this email. I'm like, what? I did a double take. I had to read that 2 or 3 times. Fake dinar. Where did that come from?
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what the guy from the SEC said?
Okay, now I'm drawing a blank.
Security and Exchange Commission. The guy said that these guys at Dinar Corp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is what was said. Ty used advanced technology to commit classic fraud. He duped people into spending their hard-earned money on his worthless wares, announced the United States Attorney Beck. Okay, Ty's caused harm all over the country, and I am proud to say that we in Alabama put a stop to this far-reaching scheme. One more quote real quick, and you can find this in the links. Mr. Bork of the Alabama Securities Commission added, the Iraqi dinar investment opportunity is a scam that has existed for more than a decade and has regained some of its former popularity. Investors are lured by the can't-miss method in which the interested investor profits from a severely undervalued currency that is certain to appreciate in value in just a short time. We will continue to investigate and prosecute those like Taya who prey on Main Street investors.
This is a production of Iraq Currency Watch. Any views expressed by guests of this show may not reflect the views of Iraq Currency Watch or the host. The views expressed by the host are opinions reached after countless hours of research and years of exposure to the dinar community. We ask that everyone do their own research regarding any investment, including the dinar. Thank you for listening to this podcast from Iraq Currency Watch.